magistrate reached a verdict. I have guilty or innocent. Spare me this mockery of justice.
What we come to you for. This is what I come to you for.
This is all
just,
you know.
Just so I can.
If you want to see what the baseless feeling man is doing, this is where it's at.
This is where it's happening. Yeah. I just so I can shake my head. I can just be like, how do I put it to him gently? How do I put it to him gently?
No, you don't need to, you know, what it is that if you want to get in touch with the ground floor, this is it. Rock bottom.
Yeah. Then there's a value to that, you know? That's good because like you can't build a tower on sand. You have to build it on bedrock.
Fucking bedrock. Can't be swamp. And I think that just helps you empathize with what's happening when you have to go get a coffee or argue with a bookstore guy, or you can think back, this is very James like,
it gets me out of my ivory tower that I'm known to live in.
You got to come down sometime.
Yeah, finally, like let down your hair, Rapunzel. James,
and sort of just like, and then you just like get that feeling like you're covered in lice. And then go back to the tower. Yeah.
Bring your hair down again. No, you have lice.
Yeah, I like that lice came into that analogy. It's good.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know. Speaking of I don't know, fantasy scenarios.
Speaking of louse.
Oh shit! Yeah, there we go. Boom.
Wow.
Yeah. Those are those are a little different. But they're similar.
They lay eggs in your hair. It's not great.
Do you think a louse is like a little centipede thing, isn't it?
No, I don't think so.
Here's another situation where someone in the audience is like, guys.
You know what? I know my fucking scalp parasites. These guys are way the fuck off base. All
right. So back to Batman. Okay, so we're continuing with 0 Year. Dark City is the sort of it's kind of a 0 Year is a two-parter. It's a huge story.
This is a big one, man. This was a fatty. I knew it when I took it off the shelf. I thought, wait a sec. I'm not going to be able to bang this out by Wednesday, but I did.
Well, it's very readable, It's it's issues.
It's not short. It's not long-winded, but it's not short-winded.
Mm-hmm. It's got a good medium wind. Fun.
Fucking a crisp breeze through the bank account. Snyder and Capullo. It's volume 5. Yeah.
Of the collected editions, issues 25 through 27, and then we skip 28 and we go to 29 to 33. The 28 issue is kind of a flashback involving Clayface. It's collected in the next trade paperback. Yeah. But generally speaking, these are from January 2014 to September 2014. And Capullo, Snyder, FC Placencia, who I really think is vital to this. When Millar took Capullo over to Millar World to do Reborn, he also took FC Placencia because this is a hot commodity. These two working together.
Is he the colorist?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fucking good. I mean, it's got it's bright for a Batman story. The coloring, but it's definitely so stylized and so, I don't know. It's just built to flash Capullo's art almost.
Mm-hmm. And when it's required to be dark, it's dark as well, but it's also like neon a lot of the time. This one in particular, this story in particular, I feel has a different palette than the other ones we've been reading thus far. Like think back to Death of the Family, like that was dark as fuck.
This was pretty dark.
This had dark bits, but again, I'm seeing a lot of neon. I'm seeing a lot of like everything has like a yellowish hue to it. It's very different. It's a Batman story, so it's dark, right? But
Yeah. I think the hue works nice too, because they did I you know, I dislike a retelling of the Batman origin.
Hmm.
I think we talked about it before.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary, and commonly don't find it brings any value to the stories. And seeing his parents just get executed and being like, it's the reason I'm the Bat, is just sort of fucking, I don't know, like shit, man, we get it,
Yeah.
But in this instance, he is. I find it clever because he's sort of been building his own Batman. This isn't a super duper traditional Batman. Um, the Batman definitely has quirks, and there's more. There's an odd type of a Bruce Wayne, a different relationships with Alfred, a different type of Alfred, different relationships with Commissioner Gordon, a different type of Gordon, and he uses the old trope Batman story as these little, and the yellow hues there, he uses them to basically like to flush out his version of the character, and also he twists some of the story to basically like fit and build like depth to his own characters, and I think that's really neat. And I found the way that this book was kind of weaved together to be very like intricate. Like this would be hard to reimagine like on a script. I'm really impressed with it. I don't know.
Yeah, Snyder's a really interesting guy in that everything you're saying is true, and I recognize him. Like he's a Bendis type guy. I think he's better than Bendis, but I'm just trying to put him in the same sort of, what class do we put him in, right?
Yeah.
And I really like these stories. I don't love them, but I really like them. I think you're right. It harkens back to the old, but it introduces a lot that's new, but it doesn't do it in a Grant Morrison way where everything just sort of becomes mystical and big and spiritual and stuff like that. It's just very sort of not true crime, but like high adventure, like a James Bond kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's still Batman.
For sure.
Still Commissioner
Yeah.
Gordon. Relationships sort of fall into place the way you'd expect them or you want them to be. But he just angles things a little bit. Just gets a little nudge. This is new. This is unique. This is a detail. Gordon was on the take,
Yeah. And what I was going to say about the Snyder was that even though he's so good, I'm not curious about him as a writer. I kind of noticed that, like, we've been reading a bunch of his stuff, and I'm not like, I don't want to read any interviews. I don't even care. I don't care for his scripts. Everything's, there's something about him that, like, he doesn't seem worthy of the work that he's produced. I don't know what that means. I just hear him talk, and I'm not struck by it. I don't hear like little bits of wisdom or interest, or for a mind that's like this. It takes a lot of work to write the Riddler with this degree of expertise, and to really make the Riddler's riddles work, and to have that like kind of weave into the plot. That's not easy to do. It's not impossible, of course, but I mean, like, it's not easy to do. Like, I'd have to fucking bake my noodle a lot, and I feel that for Capullo, he doesn't have to bake his noodle that much.
Yeah, no, it's tedious to come up with those kind of ideas, and also I think a good Riddler story where like you've done the work to make the riddles happen, to answer the riddles, to make Batman smart enough to get his own angle, to weave the riddles through the story and have them all work together, like you say. That's fucking thankless. No one's like this is a beautiful story and kudos, but I do know what you mean. There's like not like I don't read this story and think, holy fuck, I gotta know about this guy. This guy's Hunter S. Thompson. That's a feeling you get when you read an Alan Moore book or a Grant Morrison book, or even a Frank Miller book, but I do know what you mean. I'm like, this is a great book, great high adventure Batman, but like, I don't, keep going, Zach. Don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah. No, yeah. It reminds me of Greg Rucka in the sense that, like, I think this is a little smarter than Greg Rucka is. Rucka has different ideas and themes and that sort of thing, different ways that they go about shit. So it's maybe an unfair comparison, but I think it's a fair comparison in that they both are airport action thriller novelists who happen to also do comics. And I think that's kind of the tradition that this Batman is. Like I said, James Bond earlier, and I was kind of a little right when I said that, but I would modify it. He's more of like a Jack Reacher or something like that, like a tough, smart guy, doesn't give up. And
yeah. I'm behind you there. And then like there's something about Capullo when he's on that it's not tangible, but I mean, like, fuck, you can't have anything better than this. Really, you can't have anybody better than this rendering a story like this. Like everything's perfect. So like when you have that, I feel like it amplifies your story a little bit. I'm looking at this fucking Bone guy.
Oh my goodness, yeah, Dr. Death or whatever.
Yeah, fucking what was his name? Helfern?
Yeah, I think so. Helfern,
like
that. Yeah.
And it's just horrific, and the murders are horrific at the beginning. And anyway, he becomes this like horrible fucking villain that Capullo just puts together in this great way. And then the Riddler's great looking, and I like the young Riddler. And it's such a fucking, I don't know. It's just
I like that. I was going to say that I like that he's kind of pudgy, and he's got a ponytail, like he's a fucking nerd. He's kind of a comics nerd guy, and that works for him. Like he's not tough in any respect. He's just has a really overactive mind, very selfish. But here, the Riddler is once again like Capullo's idea of what Batman's villains are is another situation where like I'm like, and maybe it's the Gordon thing too. Like Capullo throughout this whole run, in order to make his vision come to life, and this actually contributes again to my airport novel interpretation. Everything is self-contained. Everything is all draws back to the Wayne's murders, and all the villains exist to somehow strengthen Batman or strengthen Gotham in like they were Apocalypse. Because the Riddler's motivation is like, I don't understand it outside of this story. Like, why does he have to like strengthen? There's a bunch of bullshit about like, and society's crumbling and ecological this, and the rich are getting rich and the poor are getting poor. But at the end of the day, it's just like he's just testing his wits against the Batman in the way that the Joker was, where he's like, take your throne, King. And
yeah, he's basically just trying to he's bringing him to a position where he's like, I'm gonna outsmart the Batman, like, and you're not gonna be able to beat me with your physicality, and that's even verbatim a couple of times.
Yeah, but even ostensibly though, he's saying like the reason he runs that riddle contest, he's like, Gotham City, we need a hero to emerge, we need like something to redeem you, something to lead you, and so it's not just that I want to outsmart the Batman. Theoretically, it's also about like giving Gotham a hero, and I just like, and that's kind of interesting, but it's a little too. When Capullo's run ends, like, what do you do with it afterwards? I guess that's something we're gonna eventually get a chance to talk about. But if it is about like constantly about Batman as his person, then and all the villains have only a relationship not only to Batman but to Batman's past. Like it actually, like I think I said this last time, it really shrinks the number of stories you can tell with these particular characters. without sort of watering them down and turning them, kind of ignoring this core. Maybe that's just the curse of serialized fiction, though.
Well, yeah, do you mean because the villains are like so severe? Like, how can you retell a Riddler story now?
Yeah, after
like
this,
the guy's
right?
the guy's a butcher, a maniac, a fucking. You can't have that guy go free again in that, or God forbid if he teams up with this goddamn superpowered Joker they have in this.
Yeah,
it'd be fucking, everybody would be dead.
Yeah. And on the one hand, like it's kind of you want that because you want someone that's worthy of the Batman. And on the other hand, like you don't want Batman to suck too much. Like I think back to the days of Marv Wolfman and even Peter Milligan and that sort of thing, like a real depowered Batman. And so the Riddler could just have like a pissant motivation and maybe kidnap a rich person and hold them ransom and stuff like that. And that could work. But like the more you ratchet up the Batman, the more you have to ratchet up Joker and Riddler and stuff like that. And then at a certain point, yeah, you get a story like this where you're like, well, where else do you go? What is, Tom King kind of solves that problem by having the Joker fight the Riddler in an extended arc, which was kind of fine. But
yeah, that's a neat idea. I mean, yeah, exactly. That's sort of a one-off thing too. Mm-hmm. But I always. I found this last time with his Batman too, is like, this is like a struggly Batman, like it's like a Batman that fights his way from the bottom every time. Mm-hmm. Like he's sort of he's on his heels Batman and just wins sort of through like grit and perseverance, which is fine. It's great, but
I think that's actually that's been the best way of doing it. That's because because the Joker and the Riddler really outpower or seem to out everything Batman. And and I always bring up Morrison's Batman, but I just imagine Morrison's Batman in this story, and I imagine this story being 3 issues long as a consequence, and that's kind of less interesting. The feisty not John Wayne, John McClane, Die Hard Batman is kind of cool.
It's good. I did like the. I don't know if you cared for this, but I like that the Batman was like, not really hadn't really found himself at the beginning of the story. Like he was just like, he was grittier and he was doing it for different reasons. Like he was doing it to fucking show you, who the fucking who can take care of people in this city, or it was like they had that little quote, by making us bear witness, Alfred said, because he wouldn't take help from anybody.
Yeah.
And then it 180'd into the Batman personality, right? Because he sort of like was reborn in those bones in that little Zorro moment with his family. And to sort of like learn his lesson that he was there for Gotham, for the people of Gotham, and that, I guess all that shit's very cliche, in old school comics, but it was cool. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, well, Batman's got to make friends at some point. So if you at the core of this book, and you really saw it in the Easter eggs of this story, at the core of, you saw a lot of Dark Knight Returns Easter eggs, like weird, like kind of inappropriate, but still cool. You saw it. There was a lot
like of a Dark Knight 3 cover or something, like a Master Race cover that they ripped off, or no, not that. Maybe Dark Knight 2.
Yeah. Oh no, I think it was the original. I might be wrong about that. Just like Batman on the on that wire with the lightning behind, and then
Oh no, I was thinking of the one where he jumped for the blimp.
Oh shit! What I saw that actually that is kind of like Batman Strikes Again, isn't it? But Dark Knight Strikes Again. I was thinking though that it's like, it was actually a weird homage to where Superman gets hit with the nuclear bomb, and the lightning's in the background. And it's even kind of drawn in Frank Miller sort of esque way. It's it's a weird Easter egg either way. Like, it's clearly Frank Miller in some respect. And then obviously there's the reference to year one. And so, like, Frank is at the bottom of Capullo's version. You know, it's sort of a
Snyder. Well, Snyder.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Snyder. Yeah, thank you so much. Of Snyder's version, and but Frank Miller's Batman. You know, like later on, they'll try. Actually, there was a reference even to "I'm the goddamn Batman" or "It's the goddamn Batman."
It's the goddamn Batman.
But anyway,
I like to read my own swears too, and I like that they leave you for your own creative swears.
Yeah.
Am I gonna say cunts? Am I gonna say fuckers? I don't know. Depends how I feel.
But Batman needs to make friends. You know, Frank Miller's Batman doesn't make friends. And so this is, you know, so I keep saying Capullo. Snyder starts with sort of a Frank Miller core of a hurt, angry, troubled Bruce Wayne, who has that moment and then adds the sci-fi sheen on top of it, and then softens it, and still makes Gordon cool and still makes Gordon complex, and actually makes everybody kind of cool and complex who is a supporting character. And then this is the story about how Batman finds his allies in preparation for, you know, like creating Batman the franchise. Out of the depths of original Frank Miller year one shit.
Yeah, so it's, well, yeah. Also, did you find the murdering of Martha Wayne a little gorier than it needed to be?
I liked that she got like this weird smoke halo around her head during the.
Well, she got fucking capped in the back of the head, and the bullet came out of the front of her fucking forehead, and a blood is like coming down her eyes, like streaming down like tears.
Yeah, I guess I
terrible execution.
I kind of glazed over that, but I guess you're right.
Fucking gruesome pridging.
Yeah. Well, I guess I think Batman actually kind of has that in common with the Punisher, only like it's rather than family or wife being murdered, it's like, you know, parental unit murdered. You know, it's the death of the heteronormative family. Sends him in a tailspin. I'm trying to find the image. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of a nice way to, you know, like putting aside the ultra violence of it, which is always awesome. Like that's another thing I show up from this series, though. It's good violence. It explicitly, like it contrasts explicitly like the trauma of Bruce's parents' murder with the trauma of Gotham being all fucked up by the Riddler, and it gives as a consequence sort of the reader it kind of tricks us into having an emotional core to this story, which otherwise there's not really an emotional core to this story. Like it's Snyder being sneaky and through flashback and parallel storytelling, giving it emotional resonance, which that's fine. You know, that's one way of doing it. But
yeah, like I know what you mean. Like he almost folded it in through memories rather than actually including it in the story itself.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. Like and it brings us inside of Batman in this story, because Batman's this is his first failure. And so it's going to reactivate his traumas, because he's a manly man, you know, at the kind of the core, you know, he has to learn he's 25 and he's like the greatest there ever was. And he's never been beaten, and he has to kind of learn how to lose and to come back from defeat, you know, which in a typical sort of, the Nolan movies. You know, why do we
The Dark Knight
you know?
Rises, yeah. And then that was the Batman lesson, was that the Batman just gets up, keeps getting up, whether he loses or not.
Yeah. And they make explicit reference to, you know, like that, you know, like I'm here to to just not give up, and just it's constant hope, a thing of hope for the people of Gotham. And
Not
I
a
bet
thing of hope for Helfrin, though.
No, I bet there's an Easter egg you missed. Sorry, before we talk about Dr. Death, there's an Easter egg you missed, and it's a reference to Batman 89. There's that lady singing about the pale moonlight.
Oh, I didn't miss that.
Oh, you did get it.
No,
all right.
I caught that. Yeah, she was she was singing, and then I had my flashlight. You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
All right, I should have trusted you. Yeah, that's my fault.
He had some great little things in here.
Yeah, Dr. Death. Being one of them.
Oh, yeah. I like that the fucking bone spurs like grow like just like rapidly out of control from like injuries from the guy's serum, basically trying to heal people by like hyper accelerating whatever DNA. That was a cool little story. Yeah. And then basically Batman starts like, he fucking loses it after he drops his like transmitter and starts hitting him on hinge points, so his bones all fucking grow out of control. It's grotesque. Yeah. And then the final death when he fucking gets the shrapnel stuck in his back and just starts howling. Yeah. Just like explodes. No, just blood splatter. That was awful.
Yeah.
I'm staring at the picture.
Yeah, me too. I didn't really think about all that blood just flowing at Bruce, and he collapsed, counting down. Yeah. Excellent suspense. You know, like this is like I said, this is very readable. It's so readable. Like I wasn't worried about. It's not like a Chris Claremont thing where there's all these words and you're just like, okay, time to have a sit down, and we'll get through this. It propels forward, and like every page intrigues, and you kind of want to turn the page, which is that's a fundamental skill. Even if you're not a good writer, if you can do that, you got a future as a hack. You're good to go.
And even the there's a lot of writing and it's very story driven but then there's a lot of trust in Greg too. There's a lot of silent pages.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like images of post-apocalyptic city with a fucking big question mark and a Riddler crown at the top. Like this is hard to imagine. And obviously like just masterfully lays it down.
I'm looking at the page when Bruce wakes up from his coma and he's got the IV he's got the IV connected to him. And it open, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 panels, but they're all like horizontal, and they're growing as they proceed. And a drip of water into a glass, and there's a cockroach climbing up and then going into the glass. And then we see that's what Bruce is looking at, and then we see the environment he's in. And I know that's not amazing, right? But it is. It just looks so good, and it's just fully rendered. And you're right, like. There's no need for words. You can give that to Capullo, and he's just gonna I see it all, and I know how to feel about it too. I know how to read it.
Yeah, and he's like sleeping on a floor mattress, and then he goes into the little kid's room and starts chatting him up. But like, is that like you say, it's not like there's nothing phenomenal about it, but there is. It's not. That's not something you can ask of any artist. And he's changed angles, like you're seeing it from Bruce's perspective as if he was like as if you were like laying down on the floor mattress. Like it's not outstandingly fucking incredible, but it's clever and it's perfectly done.
Yeah, like you want to use the word competent because it is, but you don't want to use the word competent because that sounds like that. It just sounds like, oh, you're just competent. But like,
no, because the book's
competent is hard. Yeah, competent's hard. It's extremely hard. Like get JR to drive something like this. He's not going to. And for all of his abilities, it's
or
just,
even that dude that did the Bat Dick.
Oh, Bermejo. Yeah.
Really cool gritty art from Bermejo, but like. He's not going to fucking do this. He's not going to domino buildings for me. He doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Doesn't have it. Can't do it. I was terrified for Gordon.
Yeah.
I saw buildings domino.
Yeah, and I think that one of we could just fucking extol the virtues. I have one complaint about Capullo, which I'll get to in a moment. But
I've got some expression complaints a little bit in this story.
okay, all right, okay, cool. I mean, no one's perfect, right?
If we're gonna cry, if we're
yeah.
we gotta shit on him a bit.
Yeah. Well, he's doing the monthly
here.
Yeah, he's doing the monthly grind. Like, fuck you, Capullo. But he mixes perfectly, I think, or like he's got an excellent mix. Let's say this of cartoonish and naturalistic. Like everything is drawn with enough detail and precision for the most part to give us the impression that it's real, but it's cartoonish enough that he can put energy into it and emotion and motion. Like just all the stuff that to bring the comics page alive and make it comics rather than something else.
Well, yeah, and he really suits Batman. Batman's a fucking cartoon. Like, some of the best Batman stories are cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
And Batman has a core in that, in fucking Adam West, for fuck's sakes. So there's something to be said about using that like sort of tool. There's even actually at the back in the cover gallery this ridiculous Allred cover.
I saw.
You saw that absolute beauty back there, and there's a couple yeah, it's a terrible cover. It's awesome, and it literally is Adam West. You can't convince me otherwise. It looks exactly like him. But then they had the Me Worry, the little cover, and then they had like a Joker, like a burlesque, starring the Joker's daughter, Fabulous Freak Show. And then so I mean, like they did some throwback sort of like cartoony style covers too for their variants to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was cool also.
No, that's actually a good point. Yeah, because it's very, but at the same time, and one of the things that adds to the darkness of it is obviously the inks and the dark and stuff like that, and the super violence that you've already described, but also like Capullo's dialogue is very, and we talked about it this last time. It's not ornate, but it's like, and it's wordy, but it's also like everybody's saying smart things for the most part. And I guess I kind of said that a little bit earlier, but like everyone's operating at a high level, which also gives it energy. Because like there's no one in this book that's dragging. Maybe the closest person is Alfred, just kind of being in the background and like, I hope you're okay, Master Bruce.
Oh no, man! Yeah. I the end of the book was what got me. That's where I was like, wow, this was beautiful. Like the when Alfred wants to go introduce him to his ex Julie.
Oh right, at the end.
Oh man, it was so fucking bleak. And then he talks about how he almost like fucking electrocuted himself into not fucking remembering his past. Mm-hmm. Jesus Christ. Anyway, gets off the table, and then Alfred has that flashback of what it would be like if Bruce actually like had a child and a family and some boys, and just like fucking he's in the corner like just with a couple little tears rolling down the eyes, thank you, Alfred. And then fucking everything goes fucking pitch white, and I was like, oh, how fucking bleak is that? To have the end of the story be like fucking Batman's married to the Batman,
Yeah, well, that isn't he though? Like he's
and I mean it's beautiful. It's a
well, he's married.
I don't know. The Batman.
He's not married to
no woman.
Well, he's not married to the Batman. He's married to Gotham. Because he's jumping out the window into Gotham in that. Yeah. And then
I mean to have it, I don't know and that's another little thing for Snyder's version of Bruce Wayne, where it's like you typically used as a billionaire playboy, not typically, always, and this time not so much. He doesn't.
Yeah, he
doesn't want to take those opportunities. He doesn't.
Not even for show. Not even to put on like an act.
No, his Bruce Wayne doesn't act.
He's
if anything,
just,
everybody should fucking already know he's the Batman, for fuck's sakes.
Well, we should talk about that a little bit. Let's rewind back to Gordon. I really liked Gordon in this story is smart in the way that I like Gordon to be. And I got the impression, getting back to Frank Miller's Year One, I got the impression that this Gordon knows and just acts like he doesn't.
From basically the Batcave discovery.
Yeah.
Go on as he's climbing out of the fucking Batcave.
Yeah. And that's perfect. That's you want your one of the things that you got to be careful that your Commissioner Gordon doesn't suck shit, because you're like, why would Batman care about this person? And this kind of helps us to, within this universe, this reboot helps us to remember or know for the first time why this guy's an ally of the great and glorious Batman. Why is Commissioner Gordon part of that mythos?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And like you say, the coolest Commissioner Gordons are it's the fucking Year One Commissioner Gordon. Let's not play games here.
Yeah, easily.
That's my Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, I haven't beat a man with it. I leave him the baseball bat to give him the edge. Make it fair. Yeah, and then Gotham's really fucking so rather than it being Frank Miller's version of like them roughing him up and threatening his family, they throw him into a rabid dog fight and they expect him to die. The cops, it's so corrupt that if you speak out, you just might get eaten by dogs. And
that is rough. That is a gritty ass fucking Gotham City.
Yeah. And that's kind of like, I'm not certain that it's required. It just shows that he's like, he's a junkyard dog, like he's scrappy, he's tough. I don't know if that was the best way of showing it, but that was one way of showing it.
I liked how they tied it back into the coat.
Yeah.
And how Bruce had resented him, and the entire time just wouldn't fucking. But that was part of the flaw in that in that angry Batman at the beginning of the story, was that he wasn't taking what was right in front of him, and it was the help, from Gordon and Alfred, at least from Gordon and Alfred.
Yeah, well, and to a lesser extent, Lucius Fox, who just kind of immediately becomes helpful, and whose help is immediately accepted as well, and that's strange. But it ties back to like Snyder's trying to be, not trying to be clever. He's being pretty clever. He's telling a good story here, and he's trying to put some emotional core to an otherwise tried and true Batman story. He ties his pushing away of Alfred and his pushing away of Commissioner Gordon to the fundamental trauma of his parents dying, and makes those things. And so for Bruce to accept his friends, he also has to sort of like get through that trauma again. And that's, I mentioned earlier that, that's what brings putting those stories together and putting them in parallel is one of the ways that Snyder manages to make this work. But it's also sort of required. But it's not a new age hippy dippy way of doing it. There's no gentleness to any of this. It's really like you're through a fucking meat grinder, and at the end he's like, Alfred, I'm so happy to see you. You too, Commissioner Gordon.
Did you read the People of the Dark at the very end, the little mini story with the kids?
I did not. Who's drawn that?
Andy Clark.
Oh, actually, yeah, no, I didn't. You know what it is?
It's only a couple pages, and it wasn't part of the story, but.
Yeah, well, it wasn't just that. It's like when Scott Snyder starts fucking around with James Tynion, I'm all right. And also this Andy Clark guy, he looks like a bad mix of Barry Windsor Smith.
Who the fuck's James Tynion?
Oh, he's I don't know how to answer that question. He's like kind of a hack du jour, and but he's all right. I read bits of his Detective Comics run that he did, and he's still kind of writing Batman right now. He's I don't know. He's just a guy that kind of has a career at the moment. He's like a Rick Remender, but I think a little bit more fun and less troublesome. Anyway, I looked at that and I was like,
Remender
I don't need.
sucks. So,
Well, there we go. It's funny. Maybe we'll talk about this other time. But Chris also dislikes Rick Remender, and
he fucking no thanks.
Yeah. No, we were gonna do him and I were gonna do a Remender episode, just kind of tearing him down.
How is that even possible? Has he even written a trade paperback before?
He's done a bunch of stuff. Yeah, he's done a ton of stuff. Actually. I think you've got some of his. I think you have some of his stuff on your shelf.
Okay. Well, if I'm going, I might be going under the bus for this one. Then I might have. Yeah. If there's a Remender on the shelf, so I'll have to take it to task.
Yeah. That wasn't what we. Anyway, all right. So.
Well, let me
I didn't read it. Tell me about this story at the end of the book. I did not read
it. It's just about a couple of kids who have the shitty, abusive father who goes out on multiple night benders of drugs and alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And just like yells at his kids and has the older daughter take care of this young son. It's just a fucking bleak Gotham story. Then the kid just talks to her little brother and tells her there's people out there protecting them, and then they flash, Red Hood and Green Arrow, and it's almost like a TV pitch.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it's cool because she actually gets them. He's scared of the dark because the Riddlers shut down the city. So she wires a lamp to a car battery, and then says, "I know I'm smarter than Dad." And then anyway, she puts the kid to sleep or whatever. But it's kind of it's just a cool little. It's like a cool little mini 3-page story.
Yeah,
4-page story. But it was just like sort of a neat. It was an oddball thing to put in here, and I don't really know why it's in here, but I actually thought it was okay.
There you go.
It'd be cool if she was a villain.
Yeah, you kind of get that impression, don't you? Like, what's her name? Collins Afraid of the Dark. Come on, Harpo. I'm only grabbing a drink with the boy. Yeah, I don't know. Unless, I don't know. I kind of want to. I feel that the stuff in her hair, it's got to be something. And what's she wearing? A bunch of trucks. She's probably going to turn into Truck Girl, fearsome villain.
Is that a thing?
No,
might as well be drawn by Allred.
Yeah, getting back to the trench coat with Gordon and even sort of the bat symbol, the story's kind of like this particular story, or at least the second half of it, is everybody coming to grips with the symbols that they wear. Batman at the beginning thinks that, Batman is one thing, and then at the end he's like, Batman's another thing. And, similarly with Gordon's trench coat, Gordon wears the trench coat, not like he wears it in the same way that a penitent man wears, like a hair shirt. He's like, I wear this coat to remind me of that awful thing that I did once, so that so I don't do it again, and I can walk the straight and true. And Bruce has to
it's like a burden.
Yeah. And then, at the end, Bruce is like, he buys him the thing again. I need you to have this. We got to stay pure. We got to stay pure together in our symbols as we defend Gotham.
And what about the sorry, I forgot. I was going to say something about Bruce. What would you think of him calling his outfit formal wear all the time?
I like that. It makes sense. Yeah. Him and it's a good code between the butler and the billionaire and his butler.
And he's like, I got better places to be. Alfred, my formal wear.
Yeah. He's got a fucking broken skull. I was like, Jesus. That's
was grotesque too. I was like, ugh.
Yeah, it's all fucking cracked and stuff. Yeah, this Batman
how he outsmarted the Riddler after 6 or 7 brain injuries were not.
Well, he had a little trouble, right? Like he's the goddamn Batman.
He did pause a couple times on a couple of his riddles.
I don't know what to do. But yeah, dealing with those riddles and stuff like that, because you don't know the answers, or at least I didn't know the answers, right? Like, I don't want to speak for everyone in the audience, you don't have an opportunity. Like, sometimes you're just frustrated. You're like, why don't you get it? Like, where's the tension in this? Because Snyder really put the legwork in, for the layman at least. Then Batman's hesitancy in like the way that Capullo draws him, like looking uncertain in some instances during that final exchange. You're just like, you actually feel the tension of it. And yeah, gosh, this is just so hard to do. And it's such a great collaboration, such a wonderful collaboration. Like,
I was gonna ask you, did you get any of those riddles?
No.
That's not, riddles are not fun.
I'm not good at riddles. I'm not good at riddles or crossword puzzles. People are often surprised. They say to me, like, you'd be good at crossword puzzles. I'm not. I'm really not. The questions make no sense to me. They've never made any sense to me.
You know who's weirdly good at that? My dad.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Crosswords. He just sits and he does it. He'll sit and he'll do them from like 6:30 in the morning on, when no one else is awake, and then he'll just put them away.
I think that I'm told, I have a close friend who is very very good at crossword puzzles, and and they've stated to me that they're one of the individuals who said I'm very good, and I expressed I'm not very good, and then they said that you just got to practice, and then once you start getting the hang of it, once you understand how questions are asked, you're good. But
I thought you were saying that it was a form of brain damage.
It's like playing Mario all the time,
I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't.
What are your Capullo complaints?
I found some of his faces to be the same expression. Commissioner Gordon is sometimes making the exact same fucking face from 3 different angles across pages, and it did kind of catch up with him near the end of the book.
Right.
Bruce is kind of guilty of the same thing. I'm waking up from a coma. I'm looking at a glass of water. I'm pulling a gun on you. I got the same fucking expression.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
He was guilty a little. Like, I mean, like, I'm being extra fussy here. Because I mean, the guy's a fucking master worker, maybe the best artist that's active right now, in the world. So, if that's my only complaint.
Yeah. He can't draw. This is going to sound surprising, but I challenge you to sort of pay attention to this from now on. Working on the Punisher, my side project, I've been reading a lot about guns and looking at guns and identifying guns and just kind of like seeing what they are. I don't know anything else about them, but I'm just like working to identify them. And Capullo draws horrible guns. He's not good at it.
It's a fantasy gun. It's not any kind of 9mm or anything. It's just like a cartoon gun.
Yeah, and when he does, like, I didn't bring this up in the previous arc with the Red Hood. There's a scene where the Joker's holding like an MP5 Heckler and Koch, and it's just like it stands out like a sore thumb. Like, it's just weird. It's like sitting in his hand incorrectly. It's drawn very intricately. It's drawn in a sort of naturalistic way, and as a consequence, it doesn't work. And he drew like an M4 in this arc, but you only see bits of it, and it in a flash actually it looked very realistic, but he's always careful not to draw the whole thing. And
for a guy that drew fucking Commando Spawn in all its ludicrousness, you figure he'd be able to lock down a rifle or a gun for us, but
no, whenever he draws a full gun, like even that scene where he's holding the gun on Commissioner Gordon, look at the size of the barrel. Looks like a fucking ball bearing. It's so wrong. And you don't notice it because
Gordon's got a fucking 50mm or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. He's just Yeah,
caliber. I don't know. I'm not. Words.
Yeah, it's just interesting that he can draw a gun just fine, but it's got to be a fantasy gun. And then otherwise, like if he tries to make it too realistic, it kind of falls apart, and it's just a weird chink in the armor.
That's a funny thing too, because I know you're doing a Punisher side project that I reviewed a little one or two books with you, but you done doing the majority of the project on your own. Are you noticing that the guns are accurate?
Yeah. For the most part.
Because I was gonna say I would think that could be a very easy Punisher fan pet peeve.
It is
to have incorrect weapons.
Yeah, particularly if Chuck Dixon's writing it. He's a gun guy, so, and he referenced all his artists and stuff like that.
And let's face it, the Punisher is a Marvel American classic.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a believer in your true right to bear arms in a good red-blooded American, and you're a Punisher fan, I would assume you want to see fucking accurate weapons in your book.
Yeah. I've only seen one flub from a real shit artist. Otherwise, it's sometimes they're not drawn the best, but they're real guns as far as I can tell so far. Once you start looking at the guns and think, we'll move off this topic in a second. Once you start thinking and looking at the guns in Punisher, it kind of opens up a whole new world of like thinking about the Punisher, and it's kind of like Garth Ennis's world. But anyway, this Batman story is not Garth Ennis's world.
No,
not at all.
No.
Although there's plenty of splatter.
Yeah, more gory than other and rated R than other Batman stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, there we go.
With less ladies, with zero ladies.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh. Mary Jane, you want to hang out with Batman? Fuck you.
Yeah.
You don't get to.
Yeah. Actually, you're right though. We're not gonna get a Catwoman story. We're gonna get a love story soon.
What?
Spoilers. We're gonna get something, but like it comes from, it's a very weird angle. Which brings me to actually, we can kind of wrap up, and I kind of want to talk to you what we're going to do next. So the next trade paperback is kind of a collection, kind of a montage of Batman stories that for the most part aren't illustrated by Greg Capullo.
Sounds like a schlub graphic novel.
Yeah. Like some of the art's pretty good or whatever, but there's only one story by Capullo, two of them, Batman number 0, and then the one that's missing from this trade paperback with Clayface. And then after that, the next trade is like back to the main story when we get
the
another
main
Joker.
Chorus, back to Endgame.
Yeah. So I don't know, like I like how dedicated are we to this project? Like, do we want to?
Well, we already skipped the first 3 volumes because you don't like the Court of Owls. So I mean, I think
that's true.
I think we can skip a schlub book too.
Yeah, I bet it's fine, but like I bet it's fine in principle, but I flipped through it this afternoon and it really didn't grab me.
Yeah, I don't have any interest in love stories. This is
the love stories happen, dude.
My Batman.
You're gonna love it.
He doesn't like that.
He doesn't like being in love. He's not Kevin Smith's Batman.
It's just him and his dick.
Yeah. There we go. That's the end of the episode right there.
Now, all we need is a little energon and a lot of luck.